Good evening. This is the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. It's 7:00 p.m. and I'd like to open the August 20th, 2020 meeting of the Littleton Board of Appeals. We'll read the narrative that the state has required. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote Zoom meetings pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, and we are trying to comply with that COVID climate. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a public board's meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring but not moderated, so all participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting members join by phone and do not see the conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating. People that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute. If you wish to participate, please use the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return the microphone back to mute. Having said that, we are going into executive session this evening, so I am opening the meeting, but I am now going to take a motion to adjourn to leave the meeting for an executive session, and then we will reconvene the open meeting at about 7:15. So can I have a motion to reconvene?
I make a motion that we adjourn the current meeting to go into executive session.
Could I add to conduct to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation, where doing so in open session would have a detrimental impact on the board's litigating position.
What he said.
So incorporated. Can I have a second to that motion?
I second it.
That.
All those in favor, roll call vote, please.
Cheryl Kelly
Cheryl?
Hollinger, aye.
Rod?
Rod Stewart, aye.
Mark?
Mark Saucier.
I didn't hear the, yeah.
Yes.
Who else is there?
John Sewell, yes.
And myself, Cheryl Gould, aye. Okay. So we're going to come out of this meeting, everyone, and you have to go and reopen the Zoom meeting executive session, which was just sent to you as well.
Yeah, so.
Session agenda is
a completely different. Tell me who you are. Saucier, once again, it got bounced back to me. It was
Game, because I'm into board games, so I played. I did a
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, dear.
Okay, I can't hear any of you.
That's because we're all muted.
Okay.
We're
All right, so I'm reconvening the regular meeting of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals, August 20, 2020. It is approximately 7:42 p.m. I apologize to any of the attendees. Our executive session ran a little longer than we anticipated, but I am now opening the hearing, which is the next step on the agenda, and that would be the continued hearing. Does someone have it in front of them to read the agenda, please?
I have it somewhere.
I have,
Jan, yeah, can you read it from Janet, please?
yes. Case 937A for 474 Great Road. The petitioner Charles Bell seeks an appeal of the decision of the zoning enforcement officer dated April 2nd, 2019. This is a continuation of the public hearing.
Okay, so just to bring the board up to speed and remind some of the existing members of what went on, 474 Great Road is the Neshoba Lock property, and it's at the corner of Russell Street and Great Road. Charles Bell is the applicant, and we're joined today by his attorney, Paul Alphin, who I saw in the room and don't see now, but I'm sure he's still here. Chuck Bell came before us on an appeal from the Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer's cease and desist letter, which was dated, I think, April 2nd of 2019. And when they came before us, we explained that this property was intended to be brought into the overlay district at the time that the point was being developed, and Charles Bell was asked to give up some of his land to allow for a friendly eminent domain proceeding to happen to install the set of lights there at the corner. And in exchange, he'd be allowed to be in the overlay district so he could conduct a business at that corner, which was virtually going to be surrounded by all business use. Inadvertently, town meeting voted it, but inadvertently forgot that there was a 3-acre minimum on the zoning overlay district on that Beaverbrook overlay. And so when the Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer was enforcing the zoning bylaw, she brought to the board's attention that he was running a home occupation there in violation of the residential zoning bylaw that only provided for limited size on commercial use in a home occupation. We then had a discussion about how it was intended to be a business use. The town meeting never intended to allow him in, only to exclude him because of the 3-acre minimum. And we suggested he come before us for the 3-acre dimensional variance, which we gave him on a variance basis, leaving this hearing open in case anything went awry, figuring he would get the dimensional variance, he would go back to the planning board and get his site plan approval, and everything would go forward fine. It turned out that when he went or tried to go back to the zoning board, to the planning board for site plan approval, their requirements are pretty extensive with very costly engineering and other things. And so this hearing is still open about the enforcement order. Most recently, it came to the board's attention as a result of the new building inspector, Ed Mullen, and the new assistant town administrator, Joe Layden, and counsel for the applicant came to the board's attention that Chapter 173(5) of the Littleton zoning bylaw, and I direct you to your zoning book for that, has the statement that only the building inspector is granted the power, if you will, for full compliance with the provisions of the chapter. Only the building inspector can enforce zoning. And this town, in creating the position of Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer, never conferred upon that assistant the power to give cease and desist orders or enforcement orders. And so Attorney Alphin is here before you tonight to state his case, and there's a little follow-up when he finishes. Attorney Alphin?
Thank you very much. For the record, I'm Paul Alphin. I represent the property owner Charles E. Bell regarding 474 Great Road in Littleton. As the chairwoman said, The original enforcement order from April 2, 2019, which should be part of your record, was issued by the Assistant Zoning Officer. You should also have in your record my letter dated today, which reprints the provisions of Section 173-5 that gives authority to the building inspector to take action to enforce the zoning bylaw. Because the enforcement order, or the cease and desist order, whichever way you want to call it, was issued by somebody other than the building inspector, we're requesting that the Board of Appeals grant the applicant's appeal under 48 Section 8 to overturn the decision of the Assistant Zoning Officer. And I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have.
And I would like to add to that Attorney Alphin's letter came in late today. And knowing that the board would have questions, I submitted it directly to town council with an email that submitted it exactly as was written and said, with your approval, I would like to read Attorney Alphin's letter to the board and recommend to the board that they grant this appeal of the applicant. And Chris Heap wrote me back, approved. I have no problem granting the appeal on this basis. So town council has weighed in that Attorney Alphin's position is entirely correct and that the board should vote to grant the appeal of the applicant. That means overturning the decision of the zoning enforcement officer that this was a zoning violation, because on this basis, she had no authority to issue that order. Board? Questions? Cheryl?
She had no authority to issue that order, but certainly Ed Mullins does. And certainly under our home occupation, if this is a special case, we all know it's a special case with special circumstances, but under our provisions for home occupation, it certainly is a violation. So how do we resolve that?
Cheryl, I think first of all, it's moot until Ed issues a new enforcement order, because there was no power for her to issue it. And that resolution, I'm sure Attorney Alphin, who is the craftiest attorney in the area, I'm sure he has that well under control. But I think we are in a zone here where we don't have any authority to act on this any further.
I see. So if Mr. Mullins then issues another cease and desist, then we have to act on it. But because he hasn't issued it and the person who did issue it didn't happen to have the authority to issue it, then we can just say nope and turn it away and say that and grant the appeal, and it all goes away until Mr. Mullins happens to issue such a thing, if he ever does.
Yes.
Okay.
And with all due respect, Mr. Mullen is here. He can weigh in, but I don't think there's an S on Mullen.
I'm sorry. Ed.
Go ahead. Mr. Mullen, would you like to weigh in?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so looking at the enforcement order, it was determined that the assistant had no authority. At such time when I do decide to do an enforcement, you will be the first to be notified. I know that Attorney Alphin is also working at trying to cure the zoning issue, and the town, I think, is going to try to assist him in getting through that process and alleviating any pressure on Mr. Bell currently.
And this board.
Mhm.
Mr. Alphin.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my client and I are taking steps to remedy this, remedy the technicalities, and I expect we will accomplish that before Mr. Mullen gets around to issuing an enforcement order. We certainly hope that's what we will do.
We all do.
So can I make a motion to close the hearing?
Can I ask if there's anyone else who would like to speak to it or weigh in? Okay, I see no hands. Yes, I'll take your motion to close. Cheryl, who's going to second it?
John Field, I second it.
Actually, I don't think you can, John, because I think we have 5 voting members today.
Okay, just trying to help out.
I know, I'd love it if you
I'll
could.
second the
Sorry.
motion.
Mark is seconding. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call, John.
John
Sewell.
Sewell, yes.
Mark.
Mark Saucier, yes.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Kelly Hollinger, yes.
Rod.
Rod Stewart, yes.
And Cheryl Gould, yes. So the hearing is closed. Any deliberation, or can I take a motion to grant the appeal?
Can I make a motion?
Please.
I'd like to make a motion to uphold the appeal of the assistant zoning
No, you want to
enforcement.
grant, no. You want to grant the appeal of the applicant, Mr. Bell.
I'd like to make a motion to grant the appeal of Mr. Bell's applicant? Grant the appeal of
Mr.
the
Bell is the
applicant,
applicant.
Mr. Bell, to negate, what's the word I want?
Yeah. Overturn it.
Overturn the, what would you call it?
Enforcement order.
The enforcement
Relative to
order
the
of
process.
the assistant zoning officer. And I think that's
Okay.
all I want to say, isn't it? I don't want
Yeah,
to go
well,
on
relative to this property.
relative to this property. And I don't want to go any
Mr.
further. I don't want to tie anyone's hands in any way.
Nope. Does that give you what you need? The appeal is granted. Second that motion, please.
Rod
I'll
Stewart.
second that motion. Mark Saucier.
I beat you.
Mark Saucier seconded. All those in favor, roll call, John Sewell,
John Sewell, yes.
Mark Saucier,
Mark Saucier, yes.
Cheryl,
Cheryl Kelly Hollinger, yes.
Rod,
Rod Stewart, yes.
and Cheryl Gould, yes. Thank you very much. There will be a decision written. Mr. Elfin, you're muted. Unmute. Paul? Okay, bye.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll wrap this up as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Janet, I think we have minutes.
Don't we have
One
to
set of-
address, Mr.
Oh,
Gallagher?
yeah. Yeah, we have another agenda item. Actually, Janet, will you call it to open it, and I will recuse.
Okay, this is for case 948A. The petitioner, Mark Gallagher, pursuant to section 173-28 of the zoning bylaw, requests appeal of the building commissioner's zoning enforcement officer letter dated May 7th, 2020. And the petitioner withdrew his application.
Okay, Madam Vice Chair, I am recusing myself and turning this hearing over to you. You can take me out of the room.
So basically, we just have to vote to accept his withdrawal. Does anyone have any questions? Would someone make a motion then to accept his withdrawal?
I'll make a motion, take a stab at it, on case 948A. Make a motion that we accept the withdrawal. Is that sufficient?
Wait a minute. If you look at the agenda, it will give you the proper things, but I keep coming up with May's agenda. Sorry. Anyways, you have the case number. So I need a second to,
948A.
thank you. I need a second.
I'll second it. John Sewell.
Thank you. All those in favor, Mark,
Mark Saucier, yeah.
John,
John Sewell, yes.
Rod?
Rod Stewart, yes.
Now, Kitty, were you the alternate? Who is the alternate?
I was, but I need to recuse myself.
Okay,
Well, your vote makes 4, so that's enough.
all right.
Well, we only need the 4 votes.
We only need the 4 votes. We've accepted the, if you're you're recusing you were the alternate, but you are recusing yourself. So I think I have to appoint another one since we have the alternates.
They
Kitty,
have
I'm
to have
looking-
been at the earlier meetings.
What?
They would have had to have been at the earlier meetings.
Kitty, I think everyone was. Kitty, can I just have you?
You're muted.
You're muted, dear.
Yes, I was at that meeting.
Okay, Kitty, how would you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay. And Cheryl Cowley Hollinger, yes. All right. Thank you very much. We can go back to reviewing minutes. Janet, will you let Sherry back in? Are you back in, Sherry?
Sherry, you're muted.
Sherry? Hello, Sherry?
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a set of minutes to go over.
Which one?
Has anyone had a chance to review them? I apologize to everyone. I said I was going to edit the M&M and Field Matter minutes and just didn't get around to it. But as you heard from the discussion in executive session, it's important that the minutes are accurate. So I have since taken a stab at it, and they will circulate for review, comment, edit, and approval and voting on the next meeting, okay?
Okay.
Tonight,
Now,
you
the
can-
minutes from the last meeting are in front of you, and I didn't have any changes. Has anyone else had a chance to review them?
Yeah, just real quick, my name is misspelled on the approving the minutes of 4/16/20. There's a missing I.
my apologies.
I went from being a French chef to being a piece of
China.
Saucer.
So sorry.
Okay, if everybody's all set with them, I'll take a motion to approve them as written.
With that one correction.
Yeah,
Okay, I move we approve the July 16th, 2020 minutes with the correction of Mark's name.
Mark, you want to second that?
Yes, I'll second that. Saucer with an I.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call, John Sewell.
John Sewell, yes.
Mark Saucier.
Mark Saucer, yes.
Cheryl Cowley Hollinger.
Cheryl Cowley Hollinger, yes.
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart, yes.
And Sherry Gould, yes.
Thank you.
Now I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Just in time, because Jillian's fading away in the dark there.
I'll second that motion. Mark Saucer.
Had to turn the light on.
Okay. And roll call vote to adjourn, John.
John Sewell, yes.
Mark Saucier.
Mark Saucer, yes.
Cheryl.
Cheryl Cowley Hollinger, yes.
And Rod.
Rod Stewart, yes.
Sherry Gould, yes. Thank you all for your service tonight and for your patience and really your input to town council on that appeal is most important. Good night.
Okay, great.
Good night.
Good night, all.
See you next
Night.
month.
Okay.
Bye.